third graders at Luna Elementary in Garland are just starting out on the long but rewarding road toward proficiency in a second language. You'll see more of them, and you'll meet other students and educators from around the state as we continue the adventure of learning a language other than English. You'll see educators teaching students how to communicate in a second language using the program goal of connections to access information and to reinforce other areas of study in the target language. And you'll see examples of what some of the most successful language teachers in Texas do to implement the connections program goal in their daily lesson plans. Any examination of how language is taught in Texas begins with a mention of the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills for Languages Other Than English. The TEKS for LOTE are the standards which describe what all students should know and be able to do at various stages within the LOTE discipline. These standards are organized around 5 program goals, often referred to by educators as the 5 C's. First and foremost is communication. In LOTE classrooms, students are striving to use a second language, and communication is the vehicle language learners use to become proficient. The other 4 goals stem from the use of the target language in the classroom. Students learn about the cultures associated with their second language and gain valuable insight into perspectives of the people of that country or region. Learning a second language, students make connections with other subject areas and connect to access information in the target language. Students who make the comparisons between their second language and culture and their first language and culture develop insight into the nature of all languages and cultures. Finally, students are encouraged to take their second language out into the community, to use it with neighbors here at home or in communities abroad. It is the acceptance of and implementation of these 5 program goals into daily lesson plans that Texas educators believe is a key to obtaining advanced proficiency for all language learners.
¿Cuáles productos y servicios ofrecen la compañía? Nuestra compañía es básicamente...
Clearly, communication skills are the primary focus of language study. Through the communication goal, students develop the skills necessary to master the content of the other 4 program goals. These skills include listening, speaking, reading and writing, as well as viewing and showing. Communicative proficiency derives from control of 3 modes of communication: interpersonal, interpretive, and presentational. Students need practice in all 3 types of communication in order to satisfy their most commonly expressed reason for taking any language class: to learn to communicate.
The first thing that I do when I do my lesson plans is think about the communication that's going to take place between the students. At this level, interpersonal communication is the most important, that they be able to give the information that they want to give, and more importantly, they receive the information that they want to receive. So that's where I start. From that point, I want to bring in culture. I want to bring in new vocabulary. I want to bring in a connection with students that they don't have already, that being with students who don't speak the target language, in this case Spanish. So everything revolves around that interpersonal communication. If at some point then we can get to other kinds of communication, interpretive communication, communication of presentation type, that's good too. But at this point, it's the interpersonal communication that's most important. It's what they want to do. They want to learn how to speak Spanish.
The primary mode of communication is the interpersonal mode, where there is a direct exchange of communication between individuals, either listeners and speakers or readers and writers.
Tenemos compañías en más de 90 países, incluyendo Norteamérica, África, Francia, Alemania.
At Churchill High School in San Antonio, these students are involved in a mock job fair. They're demonstrating proficiency in the interpersonal mode of communication, speaking and listening. This mode of communication requires active negotiation of meaning between the individuals and calls for a natural pattern of adjustment and clarification in order to be successful. Another form of interpersonal communication occurs between writers and readers when both writer and reader have access to one another. In Heidi Kirby's German 2 class at Cinco Ranch High School near Houston, her students are emailing students in Germany. The 2 groups of students are thousands of miles apart, but utilizing the technology available in today's language classroom, they are able to be e-pals in their target language. Using their computers, the students are communicating in the interpersonal mode, They are developing the skills of reading and at the same time developing the skills of writing. Another mode of communication is the interpretive mode. In this form of communication, the communicative source, the speaker or writer, is not present. The listener or reader must determine for themselves the meaning of what is being communicated using the skills of listening and reading. At Cambridge Elementary in the Alamo Heights School District, these first-grade immersion students receive a full dose of all three modes of communication in the target language right from the first day. The interpretive mode occurs during reading time. For these youngsters, full comprehension of what they're reading is still a ways down the road, but their interpretive skills are already being enhanced and they're developing viewing skills, using pictures to help interpret what they see and read. In today's LOTE classroom, more advanced students can take their interpretive skills to the Internet. In Vince McGee's Latin 1 class at Lake Highlands High School in the Richardson Independent School District, students research a project in their target language on the computer. The teacher is available to help students navigate the Internet, but the students themselves must apply what they've already learned in order to interpret whatever meaning the Internet writer or author may be trying to convey. The third mode of communication to be mastered by language learners is the presentational mode, which calls for the creation of formal messages, public speaking, or an editorial, for example, to be interpreted by listeners or readers where there is no opportunity for active negotiation of meaning between listeners and speakers or readers and writers. At Rayburn High School in Pasadena, these French 4 AP students are making presentations to their classmates that compare cultural similarities between young people in the U.S. and France.
Une robe jaune, une robe semi-rouge, robe rouge, c'est ma favorite. Et the Ralph Lauren, Dior, Chloe.
Current fashion trends for teenagers is a popular theme, and the presenters use the skills of speaking and showing. In this example, as is often the case, more than one mode of communication is occurring in the LOTE classroom. Here, as presenters communicate in the presentational mode, the rest of the class or audience uses the interpretive mode to view and listen to the presentation.
I want the kids to be able to go to a foreign country, check into a hotel, ask for a clean towel, get tickets to the opera, maybe not the opera, but get tickets to something that they're interested in, to be able to use the language. And I think that's where the TEKS have driven us, to make it useful to them.
Acquiring a language other than English becomes more relevant and engaging to students when it serves as a vehicle for the development of ideas and acquisition of information on topics from other disciplines. Using another language to make connections with other disciplines provides learners with the skills and interests to look beyond the limits of their immediate circle of experience. In achieving the program goal of connections, students use their target language to gain access to information and to reinforce other areas of study. For an example of how the program goal of connections can be implemented in a daily lesson plan, we visited a French Level 3 classroom at Cinco Ranch High School outside Houston. On this day, teacher Robert Swope is talking about the weather, en français of course, asking his students to access information in the target language to connect with subjects like math, science, and geography.
Nous avons Lyon, nous avons Bordeaux, nous avons Nice. Hein, qu'est-ce que c'est Este? Savez-vous? Strasbourg, excellent. Huh.
The students must attempt to read and understand a typical weather map that folks in France might find in their daily newspaper. These language learners connect with math when they convert temperatures from Celsius to Fahrenheit. They connect with geography as they locate and identify the different regions of France and discuss the climatic and ecological differences of those regions.
You could do the connection with mathematics through calculating the difference between Celsius temperature and Fahrenheit temperature if we had the formula for that. And that addresses TAS objectives also that are important. I tried to make a connection through the sciences also by talking about how pressure is measured. When we talk about literature, we tie that into themes that they've studied in their English classes. Just a myriad of different ways to make connections.
Having taught languages in the Katy district for 18 years, teacher Swope has seen the transition from a grammar and vocabulary-based curriculum to the more proficiency-based approach. He's delighted.
I think it's important that that we started to focus on the 5 C's, because I really think that is where language teaching needs to go. It's always been near and dear to my heart to run a classroom that way, and it's good to see validation that is through the research that is exactly what's been found to be successful, and to share that with all teachers and encourage that in everybody. I'm very happy to see that.
Another teacher who asks her students to connect to the real world is Sherry Harris at Taylor High School in Katy. During her 16-year teaching career, Sherry has often traveled to Spanish-speaking countries. In her Spanish 2 classroom, students use the authentic materials Sherry has brought back to access information in the target language.
I'm always begging and borrowing and stealing phone books and invitations and different things from my trips or from my friends that live in the target language countries. And so I try to bring things into the classroom that apply to what we're learning in that particular unit of study, but also that the kids have a hands-on feel for that they're really looking at something authentic. And to have them see how much language they've learned and what they can do with the language that they've learned, I think it makes them feel good about what they're able to do even at level 2.
Sherry believes anytime her students can make a connection to the real world, it enhances their language learning.
And I like to try to also, along the connections line, get them on the internet or get them out and let them see newspapers or whatever, and let them see how, or talk to people that are out in the real world and let them see how that being bilingual is really going to help their careers and help them in the future.
Using a second language to connect with other disciplines also provides students increased access to the whole range of information available from original sources through print, video, and especially the internet.
¿Vas a ir? Where are you going to go? Es este. Muy bien, zoológico. Entonces, ¿dónde lo vas a poner? ¿En qué sitio estás? ¿Número 1, 2 o 3? ¿En qué sitio? ¿Qué sitio? 2? Pon 2 aquí.
At Sandra Day O'Connor High School outside San Antonio, longtime educator Zenda Gutierrez embraces the new technologies available to teachers and students in the LOTE classroom.
This is the way the students learn now. Those of us that have been teaching for many years have seen the change in the technology. I can remember when we were doing technology and we thought it was really great when we had a TV, when we had a boombox. But now we know that technology is really the way these students really get their information. They get it quickly. They enjoy this. They think differently than we did, say, 20 years ago. I see that. They learn differently. And so therefore, this type of technology is very important for their learning.
In her state-of-the-art language lab, Zenda has her students making connections by accessing information directly from Spanish language websites, in this instance, in Venezuela.
Mira. To find a route, choose your starting and destination stations. So tú vas a salir de Playa Venezuela. They have a certain amount of information that they need to find from these websites and from the links that are in these websites. It requires that they read the information in Spanish. It requires that they interpret the information, that they use and understand the information. It builds a great deal on their reading comprehension skills, and it helps them make connections between English and Spanish, because a lot of times, as I tell them, well, look for the cognates, look for the words that look like English, look for the words that are going to help you understand, because you're not going to understand every word.
Ms. Gutierrez is another educator who has made the transition from the days of grammar and vocabulary-based language curriculum. And she says, along the way, her students have been a major part of her success.
As you teach your students, you can learn from them. They enjoy that. They like to be able to show you, no, Mrs. Gutierrez, you need to do it this way. This is how you get there. I think it's a great way to build rapport with your students. It is a little bit difficult. I would not tell you honestly that it is not. It is. It's not an easy thing. You have to be ready to take on the challenge and be ready to change your mindset, change the way you think.